This is a podcast with Stephen Meadows from Coldwell Banker and Chris Airy from Compendium Solutions. Welcome to our show, Leaders with Suspicions. I hope you enjoy.
Right. Well, hello, Stephen. Really nice to meet you. Let's just start off by please introduce yourself, what you do, who you are, your business, where you live.
Sure. My name is Stephen Meadows. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Coldwell Banker Premier. We are a large mid-Atlantic real estate brokerage. We're a part of the larger Coldwell Banker Global Network as a franchisee. Currently, we are ranked 23rd in the United States in the Coldwell Banker Network out of about 500 affiliates. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. We have 21 offices as of today. It's always changing. We actually have a merger that we're getting ready to close on in about a month, and then we have a branch office we're ready to open in about another month. So we'll have about 22, but we're consolidating a few, so it's gonna hover in the 20s for right now. And we are in 6 different states in the Mid-Atlantic currently, plus the District of Columbia. We don't sell within the district, but we service all the way around it. And we'll do some commercial business there too. We specialize in residential, commercial, property management, auction, foreclosures, pretty much anything that touches real estate. We have a sister mortgage company. We have a few title and closing joint ventures that we work on, and we are getting ready to relaunch. We keep stuttering at our attempts, but we're ready to relaunch an insurance joint venture as well. So like homeowners and property and casualty insurance. So we kind of do a little bit of everything. Currently about 300-ish agents, about 310 maybe. And we did just over 13 billion, sorry, excuse me, 13 million in GCI, gross commission income, last year, and we're primed for more growth. So that's actually my position in the company. Apart from just running things, is I also do all of our mergers and acquisitions. So my previous role was with Coldwell Banker National Franchise, and I was franchise sales for 6 states. And so I came in. My boss said, "I want to grow. I want to get to a certain level." I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." He had 5 offices at the time. That was 5 years ago. Now we have 22. So I did my job, I guess. So now we're looking at more targeted growth. We kind of threw a wide net, staked our territory, and now we're looking at some more market specific growth and things of that nature. But we're always looking at different opportunities.
Great introduction, thank you. So just for the audience, not everyone will really understand the franchise market. Yeah, it's not as big in many parts of the world. So can you tell me a little bit about the franchise? And you obviously chosen the Premier franchise. I mean, and then you said you're doing franchise sales. So and then you're now in a business you're helping to grow as a franchise, right? So what's those relationships? What autonomy do you have? What processes are prescribed? Just give a little bit of flavor for people who don't really understand.
Yeah, so Coldwell Banker is what I would call a systems franchise. It is not, or I'm sorry, it's not a systems franchise. It is a branding franchise. It has systems and stuff, but there's kind of, in the world of franchising, there's kind of 2 models. There is the McDonald's model, which I would call a systems franchise. It is very much, you cook the French fries at this, for this long, at this temperature, put this much salt on it. Every time you go to McDonald's, their French fries taste the same. That is because they have an exact system in place, and you just copy and paste, don't deviate from the system. Then you have the more looser kind of branding franchise or kind of trademark name recognition, things like that, where there are some similarities in the way business is done, but it's mainly think of it like a hotel. We're a real estate franchise is much more like a hotel franchise. So Marriott. Marriott has a bunch of different labels under their franchise, but you can reasonably expect a certain level of quality at a Marriott. You can expect a certain level of quality at a Super 8. Those are all franchises, but essentially the franchise owner can operate independently just within a set of guidelines. So, we expect you to have this color of building or this, this signage, our logo has to look this way, but operationally you can kind of do what you want, as long as you follow our rules, using our booking site and things like that. So a real estate franchise is very similar in that you can use our marks, the logos, the colors, and all that, which are internationally recognized for most franchises, and we can get into that later. But there are several franchises out there where it's like, I'm not really sure what I'm paying for because no one knows what you are. Like, no one's ever heard of your company. Coldwell Banker's been around since 1906, so very long-standing franchise real estate. It's the oldest real estate franchise in the United States, actually, possibly the world. I don't know if there are other franchises around in other countries that are real estate related, but Coldwell Banker is definitely the oldest in the U.S. So they give us systems that we can use, but we are not required to do things a certain way. We have to obviously keep an ethical standard and things like that, but it's pretty much just operate the way you want to operate, but you have to look this way. Your signs have to look a certain way. Your building signage has to look a certain way. Your website has to say certain things. And then we of course, have to pay royalties to the brand on everything we sell. So it's a lot of freedom, but there's a lot of support that can help the ownership navigate, some of the headwinds that we get. My boss and I, the owner of my franchise, he has been with the company 30 years. So he's been a Coldwell Banker franchisee since 1994. I'm sorry, 95. This year is 30 years. And he said, honestly, could I go out and buy the technology and things like that? Of course I could. He said, but I couldn't spend enough money to match the branding that I get from being Coldwell Banker. Like, that's why he stays, because it's such a recognizable name. And I used to say when I was in franchise sales, it opens doors. If you're with the right brand or the right company, that name should carry enough power to open a door for you here and there. And it certainly does. Like, for me, when I was franchise sales on the corporate level, I had people I only met with you because I wanted to hear what Coldwell Banker had to say. That didn't mean they were going to transact with me, but they wanted to at least meet with me to hear the pitch, because it's okay. You're the premium brand. I want to hear what the premium brand has to say. So that's kind of the long-winded explanation of a franchise.
No, that was great. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, because the understanding of the different systems and the latitude you have, right? So you come into this business and now you're looking to do JVs and things. That sounds quite entrepreneurial. But let's go back to the beginning. Have you always been in this industry?
Actually, yeah, pretty much. I got into real estate when I was 18. I sold a stereo to a real estate broker at Big Lots, which, sadly just went bankrupt and they will be closing. So pretty soon no one will remember Big Lots anymore. But that was my first job. I sold a stereo to a lady. She ended up knowing my cousin. She owned a real estate brokerage. I went to work for her as an admin, actually. At that time, this was 2001. She was still typing on a typewriter flyers for properties and then gluing or taping Polaroids to the flyer. Like, that was her marketing. And so I sat down and showed her, this is called Microsoft Word. I can literally build you a flyer in this program. And she was so impressed. She hired me to come work for her. Okay. Yeah. And then I didn't think I wanted to stay in real estate. So it was kind of, I'll get my license. But then once I got into college, I'm like, I don't know, I may, go a different way. And then I finally started making money and was like, all right, I could do this. And I've just kind of held on through the years. And this is my 24th year in the business now. So I've been in real estate longer than I haven't been in real estate. So I don't sell anymore. I still have 3 broker's licenses in different states, but I don't actively list and sell. I just do referral business. Like, if someone calls me up, I'll say, yep, have this person help you. I focus strictly on operations, growth strategy, and those types of things.
So tell me about that journey then, that influencing. So you went from sales and like one day you woke up and you went, hey, I'm COO material. Yeah. I mean, how did it happen? Yeah.
So I was selling foreclosures back in the recession in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a booming market, and doing really well. Loved it. And then the market shifted almost overnight to a seller's market, and the foreclosures dried up. And I was at a point where I'm like, okay, I've literally lost 30% of my income in the last few months. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like I don't want to rebuild my business. I'm not from Tennessee. I'm from Michigan originally. So I had no sphere of influence. Anybody I knew was related to real estate because I was working for Fannie Mae. Like I not for them. I was a real estate agent, but my client was Fannie Mae, which is, the large mortgage second market buyer. And that was, of course, during the big recession in the States where, the government was bailing out Fannie and Freddie. And also I just had tons of foreclosures. I mean, I did 375 closings in 5 years, which is pretty good. And I just didn't want to keep going with that. And so I actually sidestepped into home warranty sales. So I was now schmoozing the realtors that I used to work with. So that was a lot of fun. And then actually transferred to another state with that company, and then got hired by Coldwell Banker Corporate to be what's called a brand ambassador, which is essentially a franchise liaison. So I was the connector between the home office and the franchise owner. So I would travel around Louisiana and Texas, and I would meet with the owners. We'd discuss their business, talk about different topics. I would train their agents. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. And then I took a larger territory in the Midwest. And then about a year after that, franchise sales got a hold of me and started kind of, hey, I think you'd be really good at this. And it was kind of the hole I had in my resume. I was like, that's the one part of the business I hadn't done yet, was any kind of franchise development or anything like, or mergers and acquisitions, succession planning, any of that. So I took that job basically to get the training, knowing I would hate it, knowing it would be a relatively short run. I thought I'll do it for a couple of years, make some really good money, learn a lot, pad my resume, and then I'll go back to the private sector. It was less than a year. I was getting a call from my now boss, who I actually had as a client. I had one of his states, and so he hired me to be his VP of operations, and said, I need to grow, but I don't have a path for scaling. I need better systems, better this, better that, and so I basically came in right when COVID took over. Yeah. Literally 5 weeks before COVID shut everything down is when I got hired. And I was living in Ohio at the time, and he's based in Virginia. So it was about a 7-8 hour drive. I was going every 2 weeks, and staying there. And we just buckled down and we made a bunch of changes. And by 22, we were primed and ready. And we started doing a series of mergers. And we did 5 mergers in 2023. It was like, or I'm sorry, was it 22 or 23? I guess it's 22. Sorry. Right at the beginning of 22, we did January, February, March. We did 3 mergers, and then we did a double merger in October. I wouldn't recommend it. It was a lot of work. I almost didn't survive those mergers. And the rest is kind of history. We've just kind of done a few deals here and there, and just keep growing and scaling up and encountering brand new problems, of course. But yeah, I just sort of fell into it. There was never really a moment where I woke up and said, this is my life. This is my path. It just sort of naturally formed around me. And I ascended to the COO position essentially when I doubled the size of our company with our first merger. That was my ask. I was like, when I do this is what I want. There was functionally no change. It was just the title change, but I said, I need to be C-suite. It for some reason, it just carries more respect from people outside. No one in the company actually cares what my title is, but people outside tend to treat you a little bit differently if you're a C-suite versus a VP. Whatever. It's more of just a badge of honor, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of a pain in the butt, actually.
Right. So there's quite a lot of what you said there in terms of talent, systems, scaling, and M&A that I'd like to explore. But let's do them one by one. So let's start with talent. Yeah. So you find yourself getting into a position of operational responsibility, basically through your guile and your skills and your intuition, right? But now you've actually got to run a system, right? You've actually got to run a place with people in it. So how was that for you? You know, managing now it's going to be 23 branches, right? How was
Yeah.
that?
So we went from having 12 staff people to almost 50. I have not liked it. I'm not a people manager. I just told my boss that the other day. I'm like, I don't enjoy it. I don't like being the boss. Like some people get some weird, power trip about I'm in charge and you all listen to me. I'm just not that way. I have a job to do and I just need people that are willing to do the work with me. I'm a sleeve roller upper, I'll dig in, I'll get it done. I'm not an over delegator. And so that's been a challenge for me. And we built the organization a little flat, not really thinking through it at the time because a lot of it was reactionary. It was like, okay, we just bought this company, we have 12 people we have to integrate. I guess they'll all just answer to me. Whatever, fine. And then we just kind of move on from there. Because of course, if you make someone a supervisor, and then you have to pay them more, and then it's this whole thing, of oh well, that person's making more than me, and blah blah blah. And so we've been very um, careful on how many like middle managers we create because we don't want just people taking up space. Of course, payroll is our largest expense, and next is the buildings. So I've had to be a good steward of our revenue because obviously in the real estate industry, revenues, it keeps compressing every year. It's there's less and less left over for the company to operate. And so uh, that has been a challenge because I didn't put a bunch of layers in between myself and the frontline workers. So I tend to get bogged down sometimes with stuff that's like, is this really something that I have to deal with? Like, and I hate even being like that. Like, I'm not one of those, oh, I'm a COO and this is below my pay grade. I shouldn't have to deal. Hey, it's all my responsibility. I fully believe that. But when I talk to my boss, my CEO, I'm also saying, I'm more expensive than this person. So if I'm spending my time doing stuff at this level, I'm wasting your money. Like you're overpaying me to do this. So we need to start building in this lower tier that I can pass things down to, or else you're going to end up paying me doing administrative work. And because I'll do it, I don't have a problem doing admin work. Whatever it needs to get done, I'll do it. But I have to be cognizant of, like, this person is not that it's not that they're worth less than me, but their skill set is different and they are compensated to that skill set. So I need to give them some of this stuff so I'm not wasting my efforts on this. And, it's a concept I learned back when I was 19 at my first National Realtors Convention. This lady stood up, and she was a team leader in Texas, and she said, "Stop paying somebody, or start paying someone $15 an hour to do the work that you're doing. Stop doing $15 an hour work when you're worth at least 50." And of course, this is like 20 something years ago, so those numbers are a little low. And it was just like, it just resonated. It was like, yeah, like your time is worth money, whether you like to put it that way or not. And so I've kind of tried to incorporate that when I'm looking at talent, to say, okay, look, I need someone that can do these things, so that I can do the bigger stuff. Like, only certain people know how to do mergers and acquisitions. It's not a born skill. It's something you really have to learn and focus on. So if I'm working on spreadsheets and dashboards and things like that, I'm not working on my mergers and acquisitions. So could I just give that to somebody else to do? Yes, I could. I need to get better about that, and hiring the right people or putting systems in place, because that's the other thing is, if you have the right systems in place, you don't necessarily need all the staff, or the staff can be doing different things and not doing I need you to take all these reports and type them into this spreadsheet for me. I mean, if I could get a computer to just do that, I would. You know, I don't want to take an admin's time to retype something. So it's an interesting dynamic, and I don't enjoy it. If I could get out of the people management side of the business, I absolutely would. I love my employees. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not a people manager. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, you did mention succession planning before, so you obviously have picked up some stuff about the formal side of people management and so on.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on then into M&A, because that's always people find that a sexy subject, right? But you know, I do a fair bit of due diligence work, particularly around technology in the M&A, and you know, it's always quite interesting for me when you do the due diligence before you get the business, and then when you get the business, you find out what you really should have found out, right? So tell me about what that's like, right? The risk of getting it wrong in M&A in your sector.
Yeah. So especially in real estate, this is so much. It's such a people business, to the point where, like, if you're looking at like a retail business or technology or something, you know, you're looking at product, or you're looking at whatever, you know, this is the widget that we sell. I'm buying your inventory. That's not real estate. Real estate is, I'm buying the idea of your office and hope that your agents will stay, and that they'll be productive. I'm basing this decision based on historic performance, which we know does not guarantee future success. So it's basically a lot of sitting down and talking back and forth with the owner, getting to know them. It's very much I don't even want to see your P&L. Your profit and loss doesn't mean anything to me if I don't like you. Like, if I meet with you and you're a total jerk, I'm not going to ask you for your financials because I don't care. I'm not ever going to hurt. You could say, I'll give you my company for free. And I mean, there are people I have met, I wouldn't take their company if they handed it to me. Like, you're just a nightmare, and I don't want anything to do with you. And so it really is so much more of a people business. But it's a lot of ego, and it's a lot of you know, pride, and there's a lot of emotion tied to these companies, because these are usually solopreneurs, normally salespeople that did well and decided one day, I'll just open a brokerage. Please talk to me before you make that decision, because I can talk almost anybody out of opening their own brokerage now. You know, it is not for everybody. It is not, if you want to make money, owning a brokerage is not the best way to do that. Just go sell real estate. You make a lot more money. Owning a brokerage has to come from a passion. It has to be like, I hate to say servant leadership, but it comes down to that. Like, I'm sacrificing so that you can be successful. That is a true broker owner. And so to talk to someone, you know, about buying their company, well, I'm practically asking them to sell me their child. I mean, and I've heard that a lot. This is like my fourth kid. You know, the company's older than some of my other children. I've had this company for X number of years, and I've blood, sweat, and tears, and You have to get to that pain point. Okay, you love it, it's all wonderful, but what do you not like about it? Oh, well, you got to get them focused on that pain. What if the pain was gone? I don't have children, but theoretically, we all love our children, and we want them to do well, but there's a time where we are happy they're out of the house, you know, and now I can focus on living my life. So that's where, in the real estate space with M&A, it really is, you have to get them to that emotional, like, what could my life be like without this company, you know, working 90 hours a week and literally writing checks to keep the lights on because my agents aren't paying me enough, you know? And what's funny is, a lot of times the owners don't even realize that they're not making the kind of money they thought they were making, because they never actually looked at their P&Ls. They're just like, well, I've got money in my bank account, so I'm assuming I'm doing well. But it's like, yeah, but you personally sold, you know, $200,000 worth of gross commission income in real estate last year, but you only took home $120,000. So that means you took $80,000 of your money and put it into your company. Oh, it's like, yeah, if you were just a real estate agent, you would have made a lot more money. Is that something you're interested in? Well, yeah, I would love to just sell real estate. Great. Let me take the operational problems off of your plate and let you go sell real estate. So that's where we come in and offer them sort of a way out. And it's not always a bad, and they're not always, oh, take this off my hands. Sometimes it's, hey, I've decided I want to live my life differently. We had an owner, her husband had a very serious heart issue come up out of nowhere. And she's like, I'm done. I am in my 60s. I am not going to keep killing myself to run this company. I want to enjoy the time I have with my family. And when we negotiated a good deal and we got the company, but I'll tell you, we got it for a lot less than we should have, originally would have. If it had been a fire sale, the terms would have been a lot different. But she was just at that point where she's like, no, I'm done. I'm fine with this. This is good. I just want to live my life and I want to do my own thing. Sounds good. So it's so much different than sitting down with like a business broker and going, okay, this is how much my inventory is and this is how much my building's worth and da da da. Business brokers really don't understand real estate M&A very well. I think it's that emotional side. So yes, of course, business owners, treat their businesses like their children or whatever. But I feel like in real estate, it is so much more obvious because it's not an inventory. It's not a numbers thing. You're dealing with people. It's all people. Your job as a broker owner is to service clients and hire agents that will service clients. It's people, people, people. It's not just selling cell phones or chapstick. You can tell I just looked at random objects on my desk, but it's a lot different. I love it. I love real estate M&A because every deal is different. I love structuring the deals, finding out the win points for everybody. Like, okay, we're really far apart over here, but we're literally on top of it at this point. Let's build from that. Like, we know we agree on this. So how can we, bridge that gap? And it's fun. And not every deal works out, but I have a pretty decent win rate. If I write a letter of intent, I have a pretty good close rate. We may have to negotiate a little bit, but our letters of intent, which is kind of that first step, this is sort of my offer. That comes after a lot of personal back and forth. So by the time I'm sitting down and writing you an LOI, I'm writing it because I know what you want. I'm structuring the deal around what you've told me is important. And that makes a huge difference in this business. It's not just dollars and cents, because there was, oh, well, my company's worth four times EBITDA. Yeah, right. It's not. And I mean, it may be worth that, but I'm not paying that. We can get into, EBITDA and all that stuff, but the multiples, they don't really matter, honestly, because I've bought companies for way more than a 4 multiple, and I've bought companies for almost a 1 multiple. At the end, it's not necessarily about that number. It's about, does the deal make sense for the seller? If it doesn't, then we don't have a deal, period. A seller's going to accept what makes sense for them, regardless of the money. As long as it makes some sense, they'll go, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah. So I thought it was quite interesting listening to you then. You were able to jump between the emotional and effectively the intuition side of the M&A in terms of, is it going to survive the owner leaving? Is the team going to be productive? And also you then flip back into some KPIs, right? So how did you become KPI driven? And, obviously I can see a bit more about how your experience means you can see and be intuitive about the business. Tell me about the KPI side of you. When did you become a numbers man?
That actually was when I guess the KPIs probably started back. I guess if I'm being really honest, it was probably back when I was in the foreclosure market, very subtly, because I had certain metrics I had to meet for Fannie Mae. My average, my list to sale price ratio had to be a certain, gap. There couldn't be, I couldn't overprice stuff, or my days on market. And so I was getting a report card every month, and I would it kind of trained me early on to focus on the metrics. And then, of course, when I was in home warranty sales, that was a quota-driven business. Like, you need to do this many, home warranties and da 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 da. And I would have to figure out, okay, I could lean on my major client and try to squeeze more business out of them, or I could try to make new relationships and, sort of dilute the large amount that they send me so that it's not such a big proportion of my business. And so I learned to kind of shuffle things around. And then when I was with the brand as a brand ambassador, KPIs were what we lived and died by. I mean, they hammered them like, we want this percentage of the agents logging into the system. We want this percentage of the agents using these tools and da da da. And that would dictate what I would teach on. When I would go to a brokerage, I would say, look, I've got to get your agents using e-marketing. Can I do a class on it? Because I just feel like they don't understand. Oh, sure. Because at the end of the day, agents using the brand tools make them more productive, of course, make them more loyal to the brand, and then make them loyal to the brokerage, because now that's a tool that I wouldn't have if I left. So it creates a stickiness. And if the broker is happy, then they're going to be more likely to renew their franchise. So it all tied back to keeping them inside the system. So it was get them touching the tools. It's like, oh, you can have a Porsche, but if you literally just leave it in the garage, who cares if you have a Porsche? No one, if you never drive it, no one really cares. No one's going to see it. And so that really is what set the KPIs. Like, I'm very metric driven now because of that. And then, that's what kind of helped us in the very beginning when I was the VP of Ops was, we started looking at those KPIs and like, are we good? Are we bad? I don't know. Are we, we need to compare ourselves to the market. We need to look at our market share. We need to look at our, how much of our business is coming, in from this direction, and how many of our agents are actually being productive, not just an average. And now we're literally coaching our managers to KPIs. Like, okay, we have determined each office needs to do this proportion of the listing inventory for the year, and we've seasonalized it monthly. This is your goal for every month. This is what you need to hit for your office. You figure out how to make it happen. I don't care if you recruit to it. I don't care if you just get your agents to be more productive. I don't care if you go out and list the properties. This is our goal. This is what we have to shoot for to reach what we need to do as a company. And surprisingly, the managers are like, wow, that makes my job so much easier, because now I can zero in on this thing. Like, everything I do should tie back to moving this needle. And it's been very effective. And so on the M&A side, I look at things like, obviously, EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. It's net income. Might as well call it net income. That's around about the same number. And so I don't really care what your gross is. Gross is important. I kind of need to know what we have at the top. But if you're not making money at the bottom, now I have to figure out where all the money is going. And can I recoup any of that? And so I look at a lot of percentages, and I look at a lot of retained company dollar is a huge metric that I follow. And I can look at a company's P&L and pretty much tell from the retained company dollar whether they're going to be a good purchase or not. Or, like they're already not keeping enough money at the top, so they're not going to work for us. Like, I had one where it was like they were only keeping like 12% of the gross before they paid any bills. Okay, well, I have to apply an 8% royalty on top of that. So there goes all my retained dollar. Now what am I supposed to pay the bills with? So that's not a good deal,
So on the KPIs then, so just linking it back before to agents then. So what is the KPI for agent productivity? Yeah.
So on a national average, I believe it's like 6.5. So the average agent in the United States sells 6.5 deals in a year. The problem with averages is that you can also look at the statistic that says 75% of agents only sold one house last year, or 50% sold 0 houses last year. So you can look at a per person productivity and think you're doing really well, but we started looking more at in the Coldwell Banker world, we call it positive base, but it's essentially it's not an average of, like, if you do 10 transactions, let's say your office took 10 listings this month and you have 10 agents. That is a PPP, per person productivity, of 1. Not very impressive. Not very impressive at all. And then when I said the national average is 6.5, but 3 agents might have taken those 10 listings. So now you have a positive base of 3. That's not a terrible positive base, but it's not great, because that means only 30% of your agents are participating in a transaction that month. You know, we kind of see anything above 40 is getting better. Like, if we can stay above 40, that's awesome. You know, I'd love to be in the 60 range. I'd love 60% of my people doing something every month. So we're really looking closely at the number of agents participating in transactions, not just the raw number of transactions or the average per person. Because I may have a team that has a, 30 average per person, and I have an individual agent that's doing 20, but their personal income is higher than the team leader, because they're not splitting amongst all these people. So who's really more successful?
And so do you find those averages change? I mean, you're going to have 23 different offices, yeah? And they're going to be in different states and different demographics and different house values and all the rest of it. How do those averages work, or do you come up basically with per site metrics?
We do regionalize them. So what I did for like the listing count is I literally took it by office, and I went down to the office level and I said, okay, this specific office last year contributed 8% to the company gross. So it needs to carry 8% of the listings or what. And so I basically applied a formula across the board to basically make it fair. This rinky-dink tiny office in this market with only 3 or 4 agents, I can't give them a listing goal of 20, because they're never going to take 20 listings. 2 or 3 here and there, but they're a very niche market. They do a resort. That's what they do. I can't force them to overperform when it's just not possible. It's not feasible. But then I have a huge office over here with 35 agents in a market of a 700,000 average sales price. I can't say, okay, you just need to do the same as this office over here. Obviously, that doesn't work either. So I regionalized them, and I allocated a percentage basically and said, okay, each of you needs to do this much, or each of you did this much. Our new goal is this. So if you are 8% of this new goal, then your GCI needs to be this, which means your closed volume needs to be this. And I just back it, your average sales price is this. So I need this many listings because X% of those are going to turn into buyers. And your office generally does 52% of its business in listings, but not all of them are going to sell. I mean, it's a super complicated calculation. I built this spreadsheet is like super, super long because I have all these different, and I'm comparing year over year, and I'm doing all these other things. But that's how we broke it down. And then I seasonalized. So I regionalized it, and then I seasonalized it. So I'm like, okay, obviously July is way busier than January. So I can't just say 120 across the board is 10 listings a month. Well, you may take 25 listings in July and 3 in January. So setting it just across the board makes no sense. So I then took, okay, 6% of our listings as a company come from this month. So your goal, your January goal is going to be 6% of the total. It's not a perfect way of doing it, but overall it's held pretty well. Because we can, thankfully, because of Coldwell Banker, and this is another great thing with franchise systems in place, I have all this data. So I have like all this historic data. I can go back on one report and see a 3-year trend. It's called the trend report. And I can go, oh man, every year this month has done consistently better than the month before or the month after or whatever. And I can see every single 3-year trend for every office. So the data is so important. And I don't think data and metrics are used enough in business. I think a lot of times, especially single solopreneurs, I'm the owner, I do everything, chief cook and bottle wash. They don't have time to sit down and analyze their numbers. So that's why it's such a shock when someone like me comes along going,
So you you're now trying to run that across 23 branches. And I heard you use the word Excel earlier on, right? So
Love
yeah,
Excel.
so yeah, okay. But does everyone love Excel? And is that effectively your MI system? Yeah.
Unfortunately, no, it's not. So it's right now it's kind of the repository. It's what I use to create all my stuff, but we have different sources. So I have, of course, the multiple listing service. I have a thing called Broker Metrics, which is it will compile all the data from the different multiple listing services we're in and give me like market share data and average sales price and stuff like that. And it's really helpful. And then I have a couple of different back office systems that I can pull from. The issue is that no one's really ever cracked the code on data aggregation in the real estate space. There's no one source of truth. There's no one place I can go to get everything I need. It's piecemeal here and there. And so I'm drawing in all these different reports. I've got this huge KPI tracker I do every month. I mean, it's enormous. I've got it down to 3 reports now. It used to be 6. And would I say it's as accurate? No, but I also don't have the time for 6, usually with 6 reports. So the minor differences between them are not, they're not a problem, but it could be more accurate if I would do this report and that report, but we're talking like decimal points, like 0.01 difference or something. So I'm not worried about it, but still, I have to physically sit there and type everything in to these reports.
So how do you push back? So you have to push back some information back to the offices, right? So how do you do that?
So we've created it's Excel, but we've created dashboards for the managers so that like when I have a master sheet, it'll feed over to where if the manager wants to go look, okay, how am I doing this month on my listings? They can look at it real quick. Or how's my title capture doing? I can pretty much tell you my managers don't look, and that's fine. Because I'm also telling them at the end of the month or whatever, we're reviewing the numbers, like, okay, you missed this or missed that. But I tell them, like, it doesn't do you any good for me to tell you after the fact that you missed your goal. Like, you should be paying attention. And so now they've actually put their listing goals up in the offices. We're like, put them up on a whiteboard. Tell the agents what your goals are. The agents are a part of this too. Like, this isn't just a quota that you have to, this is a goal for everybody. And so we're trying to get them more comfortable with the numbers to where they can pull them themselves. And, I can't keep spoon feeding you all this information. Like, here's where you go get it. Here's the report that you run. Feel free to just do it yourself, but they don't. But you have to, at some point, it's like, well, if you're not invested enough in making your office successful to where you're going to go look at your own dashboard, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can't want it more than you do. So, but I wish it was more visual. My boss is very visual. He likes charts and graphs. I don't. I'm like, give me the raw table. I can figure it out from there. I don't need trend lines and all that stuff. I've tried to incorporate that more into his, like, I'm doing color coding and like green is good, red is bad, little arrows now. I learned how to insert different things in Excel, but I don't need the visuals, but a lot of people do. And that's where I rely on my marketing team. Like, here, take this and, make it pretty, do a graph or something. I don't know.
So it sounds like you've got a clear methodology and KPIs and templates. So what are the operational challenges in your businesses?
So people management is always, a problem. Not that people are bad. It's not like our staff is amazing. It's not like I have a bunch of toxic people or anything, but you want to make sure that they're fulfilled in their job. You want to try to create paths for, career advancement, things like that, work-life balance. I don't know the concept of work-life balance. I'm terrible. I'm a workaholic. I'm Stephen, and I'm a workaholic. And I don't apologize for it, but it's hard for me then to be like, oh yeah, take time for yourself. I say the words, but in my mind, I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't, but whatever. I just process things differently. So for me, operationally, people are always a challenge because there's always some kind of a turnover. Or just when you think you got your management team where you like it, somebody leaves, or it's just better if someone's replaced or whatever. And then it just upsets the apple cart. And then you got to reintegrate this person into the group and all that. But um in the real estate specific industry, I would say the challenge is we're facing kind of an interesting set of challenges this year. With the government, we're actually doing a panel discussion on Monday with our leadership team, talking about the government changes and things like that. Because we're in the DC market, like our business is directly affected by military changes, by government bureaucracy changes, stuff like that. So to have even the return to work order, that's a huge deal because during COVID, so many people left DC and came out to our markets, either on the coast or over in the mountains. And now we're like, ooh, well, this could be opportunity because those people may now want to sell their properties and go back to the city. We need the inventory. That's great. So, operationally, it's where to shoot the arrow ahead of the target, and I know that's more sales, but I mean, that is part of my job is I'm aiming the cannon, or aiming, I guess I should keep the metaphor the same. I'm the one like, okay, shoot now. So my boss might be pulling and letting it go, but I'm the one telling him where to shoot. And we're trying to predict these things and then prime our team to react. I mean, real estate is like the Titanic, and it turns so slowly. The market switches turns on a dime, and then everybody reacts to it. If you're quick on your feet, you're going to do well. Unfortunately, most companies, well, we should probably think about this, and we should probably have a few meetings to discuss it. And it's like, meanwhile, the competition's out there gobbling up all of the business because you're thinking about what you should be doing. So trying to prepare for the future while dealing with daily issues is hard. It's hard to balance that. And again, that goes way back to the beginning when I said, like delegating and things like that. Like I can't focus on where I need to be aiming if I'm over here dealing with Sally getting offended because someone crossed their eyes at her the other day at the office. And okay, I know I had to deal with this, but I really need to deal with this over here. Like, because if we miss, now we have to completely retool and shoot again, so it's hard to know where to deploy our assets.
Okay, so market intelligence is the challenge, isn't it? Because everyone's just reacting. But
Yes.
what could you do to imagine you could predict where the business is going to be? Yeah.
Yeah. If I could get more leading indicators than lagging indicators, I would absolutely, that would be amazing. I mean, it would be a game changer to be able to say, okay, we're going to be focusing on this market or this, whatever, like listing inventory, or like if I could get a list of government employees, that would be all I need. I would just farm the government employee list, like, hey, either you're losing your job or you're having to return to work, or you might have a real estate need, we're happy to help you. And the other thing that we focus on heavily is, I call it life change or life event marketing. It's the D's: death, divorce, diapers, dumpsters, those types of diamonds. People are going to move because life will move them, period. It might be a death in the family, or they're getting married, or they're getting divorced, or whatever. So there are certain things that will always be a market factor no matter what the market's doing. So if we can figure out from a marketing perspective how to get those people and get in front of those people before they make a decision, then it's kind of a hedge against everything. If you're focusing on life changes, life events, I mean, the market can pretty much do anything it wants. People are still going to get divorced, have babies, die, be disabled. It just happens. I mean, it's a natural part of life.
So what are those lead indicators of the D's then?
So there are some analytics that you can look at, but really it comes down to manual networking. It is, I need to get in with the divorce attorneys. I need to get in with the wedding planners. I need to get in with the estate attorneys, whoever. You have to think of, if I'm going through one of these Ds, what am I going to do first? Am I going to Google it? So do I need to do some search engine or word search engine marketing, not search engine optimization? If I'm going to go talk to an attorney, well, then I want that attorney to know the real estate company is here to support them and support their clients. If they're going to be talking to a long-term care facility, that facility would benefit from them being able to move very quickly on their real estate. So it's almost, I have to go talk to the people that they're going to talk to before they talk to them. I have to lay down that groundwork. And so we're actually getting ready to launch a whole business development branch of the company for that purpose, to basically go out and start farming these relationships, builders, and all these different segments. It's all very, piecemeal. And it all seems like, well, what's an attorney going to give you? 3 or 4 deals a year? Yeah, maybe. But what if I have 20 of them in all my markets? That's like 80 deals. That's not small potatoes, especially when I'm monetizing it and able to generate income from selling that business to my agents.
But they have to remember you. One of the things I always find interesting about referral networks is there has to be some money,
Yep.
but they also have to remember you at the right time. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
What techniques have you used to make people remember you in referrals? Because I think that for the listeners, that'll be all across all industries,
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. So I will go way, way, way back into my B2B sales, business to business sales training from American Home Shield, the home warranty company, is be a resource. Don't just ask for the business. If you give somebody something of value, they will remember you way more than if just, hi, I'm Steven. If you ever need if you ever have a real estate need, let me know. I want to be the guy that like, oh, he was so helpful. Like, who was that? What was that guy? They might not even remember my name, but they're like, that was that guy that told me about that thing. Oh, where is it? Oh, Steven, that's his name. So I'm a big proponent of being a resource. Give something of value, teach them something, whatever, solve a problem, and you're going to be way more memorable than just introducing yourself. It's everybody listens to the same radio station, WIFM. What's in it for me? You tie it back to the benefit to them, and you're memorable. Period.
Okay, so just to wrap up now, let's if you could just sort of talk to yourself when you were younger, yeah? What would be that thing that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
I actually wrote an article about this for Inman News. So the biggest thing I would tell myself is keep your sphere, build it, keep your database. Don't stop talking to anybody. I lived in a town where everybody knew my family, and I was terrible at asking for the business, reminding them I'm in real estate. I never kept in touch with a lot of my past clients. Of course, I moved around, so there were reasons for it. But if that's what I could tell myself, it would be build your database early and treat it like an asset. It's something you can sell someday. So I wish I would have done better with that, because even though I'm not in sales anymore, I would have had something of value had I worked hard to maintain that database.
Right. Well, Stephen, thank you very much for your time. I mean, that was fascinating. We covered such a lot of ground there, from sales to the KPIs to the metrics to the industry to M&A. I mean, there's so much in your role. So thank you very much for your time, Stephen.
Absolutely. Anytime.